With no timeout.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.
Statement win for the Delhi Capitals, who humbled the Sunrisers, who've now faced back-to-back defeats. The power game or the ultra aggression has gone horribly wrong. Plenty for Pat Cummins and co to reflect upon, but Delhi look like a serious team. We look back at that game. We'll also build up in a little while from now to Rajasthan against CSK in Guwahati. This is Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout. Ian Bishop is here. Matt Roller is still here. Cheteshwar Pujara, oracle that he is. 16 over finish.
I know who I'm calling before the next game starts that I'm working on. I'm getting his number and calling him and asking him about results.
Yes, look at how accurate that was. But well, what a day for the Delhi Capitals, who must be feeling like on top of the world right now with the wins they've had, Puji.
I think they'll be very pleased with the effort today, not just with the ball but with the bat as well. If you look at their batting lineup today, everyone scored. And even Rahul, when he walked in, he looked good. His approach was different. And look, that's a big positive for Delhi team going forward. But there is a lot to think about for SRH, because how do they deal with this failure? it'll make a big difference going forward in the IPL.
What's the story for you, Bish, for today? Is it more about the Sunrisers and their potential template going horribly wrong, or Delhi Capitals could be one of the teams to beat in the early days of the IPL?
I think I still have a feeling that Sunrisers will get it right at some point. If not consistently, certainly with the bat, they'll strike a few more times. But I think the way that Starc came to life again, and Kuldeep Yadav, let's not forget, 3 wickets again for Kuldeep, and apart from that 6 he got hit for, he looked really good again. And KL Rahul, as we said, I hope he continues to play this way throughout. His legacy is already so. I was saying to Matt before we went on air, his legacy is sorted. Champions Trophy winner now, so he doesn't have to worry about what people think about him. Just go and play the game. So happy for Delhi.
All right, Devil's Advocate, break down that game.
Well, just to add to what the two guys have said already, I think Delhi looked brilliant in the field as well. It's something that we don't talk about probably enough at times, the fielding in IPL, and how often people describe it as being a barometer for a side's success. But you think there was
Sunrisers look shabby.
And you look at the two sides. I mean, Delhi, you had the run out early on from Vipraj, which sort of set the tone for that whole fielding performance. But then you had 4 very good catches as well. One from Vipraj running back. You had Fraser McGurk on the boundary, and then 2 to finish the innings in the 19th over from, I think, Aksar and Faf du Plessis. So, yeah, I thought they were really, really good, and they looked like a confident side already.
I know there are some very strong analysts in our cricket ecosystem that say fielding doesn't have any say in.
Really?
So I like that. Yeah, there are those. But that's a chat for another day.
Next time we turn up in this chair, you have to have the fielding table ready for us.
But there's actually nothing. I mean, you can have a little run, save runs sort of conceded thing. But anyway, I'm not going to digress to that. I'm not going to entertain it because we don't believe in that. What I do believe in is talking about the form of Mitchell Starc, which we couldn't spend enough time on in our mid-show. Starc didn't have the best IPL right up until the playoffs last season. Bish, he missed a fair bit of cricket, opted out of the Champions Trophy. What are you seeing from Mitchell Starc in the early parts of this season, especially today?
Well, for one, the rhythm. I remember when we started last season, there was talk about his rhythm not looking on top of the world, which led to the pace not being quite up there. Today, he just seemed to lift his game. Maybe it's Matt's research and just the sight of Travis Head in front of him and the sight of Sunrisers, who he was so good against in the playoffs last year. And that's what big players do. The higher the sort of demand, they rise to it. So assessing the conditions, using the short ball, getting a little bit of swing, not too much. I thought he was just very good.
Do you sense Starc last year came back after how many years in the IPL? Last year was a return for Starc, wasn't it?
7 years or so.
Perhaps it took even the great Mitch Starc a season to just see what the IPL has become, and maybe from 24 to 25, he's better prepared.
I just wanted to add a point here, because when BGT was going on, I spoke to Mitch Starc when I was working with Star, and then I asked him, because I've faced him and I saw that his accuracy, and he started swinging the ball a bit more for the right-handers. The ball started coming back in, and he did mention that he has worked on few things. His accuracy has improved, and even the swing has improved, and which is following up even in the white ball. So if you can swing the ball in the red ball, and I mean the kind of wickets he took in the Border Gavaskar Trophy, most of the balls did come back in, and earlier he could do that, but his accuracy is improved, and most of the times the balls were hitting the stumps.
Do you sense there's more thought behind every ball Starc bowls, where sometimes if he goes for runs at the start of the over, that could be a long over for Mitch Starc? Nick Knight brought up this point a few days back on the position you're seated in, Vish, where he said it's not only variation isn't just pace off, variation is 8 Ks less than the previous ball, sometimes 8 Ks more. I think the Nitish Reddy ball, it looks like a full ball there to hit, but I believe it was 10 Ks less. It was at 130 instead of 140, which is perhaps where a batter is expecting Mitch Starc, and the bat speed is affected accordingly. Do you sense Starc is just adapting better, or has just come with more skills on display than last time?
I think for me, skill is a thing. If we compartmentalize, let's say red ball cricket, there's a certain time I found in my career and talking to some of my colleagues who are great bowlers, you get to a point where you understand now how to construct an over, even in this format. And what's your wicket-taking ball? As you get older, not every ball you go through, unless you're Mark Wood or something like that. You could sort of pace it over and construct it a little bit better. And to your point, the fact that he's playing more IPL now since last year to now helps to sharpen those skills.
Shall we go back to your original point at the mid-show? The toss now looks even more damning at the end of the game. But you called it before. It was a surprising decision to bat first for Sunrisers.
And I'll still say, going forward, afternoon games, I think it's no-brainer because you want to bowl first. The pitch is, most of the times in the Indian conditions, most of the places during summer, the weather will be hot. The pitch will be slightly on the slower side. And if you're batting second, there'll be a significant difference between the first and the second inning. So I don't think they've done their research and they were being outplayed.
Okay, we're going to have that chat on how they respond to this. But let's quickly just talk about some of the Delhi batting. Faf du Plessis, weren't sure if he's a starter before the season when the auction was set. Then they named him vice captain. We thought he's going to start. So where's KL batting? But Faf today played what we thought JFM would do for them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the impressive thing about Faf is how he just seems to, obviously he's 40 years old now, but he seems to have worked on so many different facets of his game over the years. There were some numbers that came up on screen about his numbers against left arm spin, which used to be something that teams would perceive as a real weakness of his. But he's, I think, improved so much in that area that it's now a strength of his. And we saw that when he was attacking against Abhishek Sharma. And yeah, he looks such an impressive player.
Yeah.
And it's, I think, you sort of think of IPL a lot of the time in auction cycles, and he had that great last cycle with RCB, but tailed off a little bit in 2024 compared to a really, really good 23. And presumably part of the decision to release him was a thought of, maybe
he's not a 3-year player.
Maybe we're not going to have him for the next 3 years. But what Delhi have done is they've thought about how they can win the IPL this year. And, maybe maybe he wouldn't have started if Harry Brook was available and hadn't pulled out late. But, this is the thing.
You're spinning this like this is a good thing Brook did for Delhi Capitals.
I don't think that was the reason for it, but it might be one of those things where it just so happens, you don't always, we always analyse after the auction what happens, but it's about which team actually turns up at the start of the season, and Delhi looked very good.
Full credit to the management for persisting with this combination with Faf, who, we remember Puji, a few years back, we thought he was the most impressive batter who evolved his game to 2020 cricket. He's not playing international cricket for years, and yet, I don't know what his non-IPL form is like outside of, say, CPL, SA20.
Very good in the Caribbean.
Very good in the Caribbean, but he comes in the IPL and still looks the part, which must be so difficult for an internationally retired player.
It is, but the positive part about Faf is he's one of the fittest cricketer.
Yeah.
Even if you look at his other franchisee leagues which he's playing, he's one of the best fielders even in those leagues. So he has taken some brilliant catches in other leagues. His form has been good, and he works hard on his fitness, which is a big advantage because this format demands a lot of fitness. If you are fit, then you don't need to necessarily play all the international matches. And if you are playing other franchisee cricket, then that also helps. So for him, I think it's he has grown as he played more cricket. And since he has been part of other franchises last 5 years, is probably the best of Faf du Plessis I've seen.
Can I just add, we were discussing, Matthew Aiden and I were discussing that, and I didn't see it Matthew's way the other day. We were talking about one wrist spinner in particular. You're probably not as sharp if you're not playing international cricket, but if there is an advantage to it and you are determined, as Faf is determined, then all you're doing is playing T20 cricket. So I think to your point, you are able to evolve and tailor if your desire is strong. You don't have to think about red ball technique or 50 over technique. It's just T20.
All right, well done, Faf du Plessis. I know it was only 5 balls, but let's just go back to KL Rahul, because it tells us something about what he's being told. Maybe 160, nothing really to lose, game in the bag, but yet that 5-ball innings does tell you something, doesn't it, Vish, about perhaps what KL Rahul we might see this season?
Well, I have a particular bias because like 3, 4, 5 years ago, whenever he came out and he played those extravagant shots, as a colleague of mine who works in commentaries here as well, we used to message each other and say, "You're watching KL? That's how much we just love that aspect of KL Rahul. And when he played the first shot today, I thought, yes, I was sitting here by myself and I thought, this is the KL Rahul that I want to see, regardless of how it goes. There's going to be a time when he's going to have to come in if a few wickets go down. We know he has that game. He has this game as well, and this game is attractive if he can push it on.
You know the man well, you've batted with him. What do you sense he'd be feeling like just by the evidence of that 5-ball innings?
I think he'll be very pleased with the effort. I know he might be disappointed he got out, but the way he batted, there was no pressure on him. And there are many times I've seen that he's under pressure. You can see it from his body language. But now he's looking a bit more relaxed, and he's batting with the freedom. But one thing I still feel is that he should be batting at number 3, because he can play the role which Nicholas Pooran does. If he comes in at number 3, he will end up facing more number of balls. And if he keeps batting like this, then he will be a match winner.
You'll have a lottery from the guys wanting to bat at 3. Tilak Varma at 3, get Nicholas Pooran up at 3. There's so many guys that could be batting there.
I think there's some interesting side plots here as well, with Rahul taking the gloves ahead of Poril, with Rahul playing in the middle order. There perhaps that's maybe his best chance to find, for his T20I career to be reinvigorated, if indeed it goes that way. Right now, Samson's at the top keeping, but once Jaiswal's fit and Sharma's there, they may actually look for a middle order keeper. And that, I think this works on that level too. We have had this chat before.
Yeah, well, and playing like this is the way that he's going to get back in that Indian side, isn't it? If you look at how they've played, we followed that series against England earlier this year. There's no question that they're going to be looking for a player.
I did an interview with him before he went to Australia, and he said, "I know why I'm not in the T20I team. I've seen that in the last 12 months."
Yeah.
And this was before the auction. So that was as honest and a straightforward an assessment of him acknowledging that his game, even if he finds success in terms of volume of runs, it's not going to be enough. So if he's realized that, and new franchise, fresh start, no captaincy, who knows? This could be his year. Let's take some questions. I know we normally save it for the post show of the night game, but yes, why not? They've come in pouring, obviously. Ian Bishop has the huge fan following in India, as he does. So they're all coming in, the questions and comments. PV Prithvi, please try to bring Bish as regularly as possible. Cristiano Ronaldo, big fan of you, Ian Bishop. Love your commentary and everything that you know about every young Indian player that differentiates you from others.
I'm still convinced that those questions never come there, and you make these things up every year.
You read them. I know you don't like this, but I'm still going to probe. But I am a great admirer, and I've worked with you enough, of the level of research that you do put into the stories of the young Indian players. And I just wonder if you'd like to share your process and why you think it's important, or how you go about sometimes researching on these Indian players that many of your co-commentators or even your Indian commentators may not know much about.
I don't think I work harder than anybody else, but I like research. I like finding out about people. We sit and we chat about life, not just cricket, right? And I think from the cricketer's point of view, Cheteshwar Pujara, I want to know the sacrifices that he made, that his parents made, in getting him to where he has gotten to, for one particular reason. It sends a message to another family coming through, another young player and another family who might be saying, we could never get my daughter or my son to that level. We just don't have the resources or the skills. But no, here's a guy who's an ordinary family life, who made it there by doing this, so you too can make this. And those stories need to be told. Some of my colleagues don't like it. I don't care. It encourages other people coming through that we can do it if we do X, Y, Z.
I love it. I've been one of your colleagues, you know that. I love it. Absolutely love it. I had a question as well here on whether Ian Bishop likes me more in studio or when he's co-commentating with me.
You? Neither. I'm only here because I signed a contract to come.
Okay.
I love you, Rana.
Yeah, that's the first lie he's ever told. He doesn't lie otherwise. Brilliant. Now, this is a really good question, but it's from an account where the name is in Mandarin, so I'm just going to read the question out. How does Starc own head like it's nothing? Very few bowlers can claim that. You have some notes on that.
I've just got the numbers after today's innings. Shubham Agarwal from our very detailed and thorough stats team said that heads innings today, actually, he managed to nearly double his career average against Starc across all cricket from 1.6 to 3. The record is now 8 innings, 34 balls, 18 runs, 6 dismissals in their head-to-head, which is pretty wild. I can't remember a head-to-head quite like that in terms of the one-sidedness.
Yeah, okay. Right, let's take some more, shall we? Walking Alive, Delhi has to be the best fielding side in this IPL. Yeah, to Matt's opening comments, they caught everything. Maybe one went down of Aniket, I think it was. But yeah, that very impressive fielding effort.
No, they look brilliant on the field, and there's always a saying that catches wins you matches. Today was the classic example of how it should be done. But I think it's also the kind of players they have. It looks like most of their young players are fit, they are agile, and they are calm under pressure, because even for fielding, you need to stay calm. There are times where in the IPL, you don't see the ball well, but if you are, even if you miss just the catch, you still need to have that composure to catch it. And it looked like they have worked on their fielding, and they got it brilliantly.
Kushal is saying, regardless of what happens with KL's T20I career, I'm just very happy to see him playing freely like this. Genuinely looks happy in DC and without the burden of captaincy. Yep, that's the vibe we are getting as well. Ujjwal makes a very interesting point. KL in the middle order also could open up so many things for DC. If there's ever a day when they have a top order collapse, KL Rahul could be someone to just pick things up from there, which is something we spoke of Sunrisers. And just before we wrap up, Aniket Verma, just very quickly, I don't think we spent enough time on him, but there's a question here on whether Aniket should bat higher, or what SRH's reaction to this game will be. Now, last time you said they'll come even harder, and that was true. They did try and come even harder today, and it's failed. Now what is the question? Challenge for the management here. Puji, what do you sense should be the message to the batting group?
I think the message has to be clear that yes, you want to be positive, but at the same time, try and be smart. Try and pick the right bowler. Try and pick the right ball, because it's not necessary to go hard in each and every ball. Try and have a game plan where you are just first looking at the power play. Try and score 55 to 60 runs just by losing one wicket, because if they have wickets in hand, the last 2 games which they lost, they've almost lost 2 to 3 wickets in the power play, and that's where today it was, I think, 4 wickets. Yeah. And even the previous game, it was close to 2 or 3 wickets. So if you're losing too many wickets in the power play, then there is more pressure on the middle order, and they rely heavily on their top order. So they'll have to figure out a way where they are going aggressive, but at the same time finding the right balance.
Okay, it's time for a rapid fire review. Puji and Matt know how this works. Bish, it's rapid fire review, 1-line answers. If you'd like to do another one, please do, because we could listen to you all day. Let's do the rapid fire review, shall we? Before Bish throws something at me. First one, 2 sub-200 totals in favourable conditions. Do Hyderabad need to temper their batting approach? Puji.
Yes, I think they'll just have to figure out the balance of being aggressive and still, target the bowlers, pick the right bowlers to go after, and not try and think about what's the outcome of the game is, and maybe just they will have to change that approach a bit.
Bish, what has impressed you most about Aniket Verma so far?
I've really been impressed, first of all, with his character and his willingness to continue playing his strokes, but he's got a range of strokes. It's not just hitting to one part of the ground. And for someone so young at this stage, at this level of the game, that has impressed me most.
Matt, only 5 balls, but have you got a first look at what could be a renewed KL Rahul?
Definitely a first look, and definitely a different KL Rahul to the one that we've seen in the past few seasons with LSG.
All right, back to you, Bish. 8 wickets in 2 games and his first 5 in T20s. What is working for Mitchell Starc this IPL?
Rhythm seems better from earlier compared to last season. He can use he's more confidence in using his change-ups, the angle of his seam. He'll use that 3/4 seam. If it's swinging, he'll get it to swing. So he looks just a more complete Mitchell Starc at this early stage of the season than at the same time last year.
All right. Puji, why did Faf score as easily while Jake Fraser-McGurk struggled in the power play?
I think, look, it's the experience. It plays a major part, but both are talented players. But Faf, since he has played so many IPL games, it was easier for him to target the bowlers.
All right. And finally, Matt, the significance of Kuldeep Yadav continuing to make inroads in the first innings today?
Yeah, absolutely huge. I think when you look at the spin pair that Delhi have, you'd say Axar is probably the more defensive spinner, and Kuldeep is the guy that's going to come in and take wickets, and he's done exactly that today, played his role to perfection.
All right, that is a lovely rapid-fire review. Thank you very much, gentlemen. That wraps up the afternoon game, but it's a double-header Sunday, and this is a huge game for the Chennai Super Kings, especially after they lost to RCB, something that hadn't happened in a generation. And as far as Rajasthan Royals go, they too are in search of some points. So let's just tell you what's going on in Guwahati. CSK won the toss, and they will be bowling first. So the trend continues. Didn't quite work the other night at the Chepauk. All sorts of conversations of how low MS Dhoni batted. But for now, at Guwahati, Puji, they're going to be bowling first. Evening game. Can you understand that decision?
I think so. And even if you look at the way RR played in the last game, they batted first. They didn't bat well. So they're trying to put some pressure on RR's batting lineup.
There are changes. We thought CSK might react, but not in the way we discussed on the panel that night, where we thought Devon Conway might come in to give them a little more quality. Sam Curran does make way. Jamie Overton, first game. Vijay Shankar in for Deepak Hooda. Let me get the Overton on Curran one from you, Matt.
Yeah, interesting. Overton, not played in the IPL before, obviously. He's broken into the England white ball setup more regularly this year. He's someone who has impressed the management a lot because he's played in various franchise leagues, ILT20, Big Bash, done very well in the 100 as well. Primarily been used as a finisher, probably slightly more so than Curran, and very powerful, big guy at the back end. But can also bowl quick as well, and might be a solution to some of the issues they've had in the power play. He might close out some of the power play overs.
And Vijay Shankar ahead of Deepak Hooda, who struggled in the last game, Puji.
I think he's a quality player. He should have been part of that squad, but since they have been playing at Chennai, they needed an extra spinner. But now, since they are playing away from Chepauk, this is the right move because Vijay Shankar he can bowl a couple of overs if there's any need. But apart from that, the quality of batting which he possesses, I think he'll be doing a proper role in the middle overs.
See, if he's going to bowl a couple of overs, something's gone horribly wrong. But
he can. I'm saying
he can. No, you bet. But you got 4 of them on the right. You've got Overton, Jadeja, and potentially Rachin on the left. But anyway, Shivam Dube continues to be on the impact bench. The other big conversation was just the use of their batting resources. I don't know, Bish, if you're a fan of Gaikwad at 3. There are a lot of us saying he's got to be opening to see the best of Gaikwad. Dube came in a bit late. MS came in very late. I don't know what they'll do as a reaction to the last game, but it didn't feel like the CSK of usual years.
Yeah, I like Gaikwad at the top, to be honest with you. I think Hooda had to make way with Hooda because at LSG last year they tried him in different positions and he just didn't seem to fit. What I am surprised is that CSK being who CSK have made these changes already 2 games into the season. That is a little bit of a surprise. Not a bad thing, a little bit surprising. And Overton does give you that heavy ball, tall bounce ball, and Sam really wasn't sort of cutting it with the ball, and they need that cut and thrust.
Okay, well, they usually are a franchise that backs their players and all of that, but IPL's tough tournament. If you lose one, sometimes you just need to react after one game. Let's confirm the Rajasthan Royals team for you as well, shall we? And it looks like no changes yet. Riyan Parag is still named captain, which means for the 3rd game running, it's going to remain Riyan in the field, and Sanju will likely just be impact subbed off for somebody in the 2nd innings. We'll find out who that is. 4 overseas names. So if they want spin, there's Kumar Karthike. They want pace, there's Yudhvir Singh Charak. Puji, they've not made any changes. I wonder what their potential changes could even be.
Yeah, I don't think they needed to make any changes. I think they just had to play better cricket, which they haven't been doing. And I'm sure they would have had a chat about how to bat if they are batting first, and if they can get to 180 on that pitch, which I feel they should be able to defend it.
And notable as well that they're sticking with that plan that they've used throughout the last cycle with the impact player.
Let's go into it. Let's go into it in detail. Understanding Rajasthan Royals tactics and the balance of their 11s, which we have discussed briefly last game. Take it up, Matt.
Well, the interesting thing with Rajasthan is they pretty much, they don't have hardly any genuine all-rounders in the squad. You could say Hasaranga maybe, but more of a bowling all-rounder. Other than that, there's pretty much no one. Most of them are specialists. And what they tend to do, regardless of whether they're batting first or bowling first, they'll pick 6 batters and 5 bowlers. And their strategy evolves through the game much more than a lot of teams with the impact player. So we saw in the last game, because they lost a lot of wickets, they subbed in Dubé as a batter
in the first innings.
In the first innings, if they had got up to a 200 odd for 4, let's say, they would have subbed in a bowler at the innings break and used it that way. But they they're probably in some ways less formulaic in terms of they don't go into a game with a set plan of this is when we're planning to use the impact sub. They let it all play out. But it does feel like sometimes they have the issue of the top order isn't necessarily liberated to go really hard in the way that it has been at some teams, because of the fact that there's that slight level of uncertainty. Because if you end up in a situation where Hasaranga's due to come in at number 7, you have much shallower batting than a lot of teams in the IPL do. So I think it is unique among IPL teams and how they do it.
It's following a pattern that they used in the last season, where Ashwin used to be sent up.
Yeah.
What was different, I guess, was you had formidable bowlers as specialist bowlers. This time the bowling looks different. But would you sense, let's look at the successful teams here. Delhi, Punjab in the early days of the IPL, at least so far, you can see depth in batting regardless of the impact sub. And you can see multiple bowling options also regardless. And then the impact sub almost becomes someone that won't necessarily be instrumental in the team's success that night, just an added bonus or added strength. You sense Rajasthan are not there yet.
Yeah, they are not. And the reason is, one is Jofra Archer. He hasn't been bowling well, and because of which their spinners are under a lot of pressure. And we saw in both the games where Jofra, I know, is coming back from the injury, but he's not looking at his best, and he needs to find a way, and I'm sure he is capable enough to do that. And at the same time, another worry is Sanju Samson. He's not the captain at the moment. They've named Riyan Parag for first 3 games. So even there's not much clarity within the team. I'm sure that when you have 2 different captains for first 3 games, and then Sanju is going to lead the team from 4th game onwards, then Riyan, who is not experienced enough at this stage, I don't know what's the message within the team, but there are times where when you have multiple captains, there is a lot of difficulties within the dressing room.
Yeah, I can understand. Bish, would you like to spend some time on what you've seen of Jofra Archer and why we aren't seeing anywhere near the best of a bowler who lit up the IPL a few years ago?
Yeah, I'm concerned about it actually. It's in a point of discussion. Injuries do take a toll on you, even subconsciously, and I know that for a fact. So I'm wondering whether people fear him less as one point now, given all that he's been through, and given all the injuries not quite hitting the same straps in terms of venom that he had previously, which is unfortunate because he was overbowled at a certain point in his career and broken. So I'm hoping he gets back there, but it's a higher, harder road for him to climb now.
Have you had any sort of interaction with him pre-match at any of the games? Have you met Jofra yet? If you do, sometimes you do before the game have a chat with these guys, and I wonder what sort of messaging would be the kind that you'd want to give if you want to try and see the best of Jofra again. It does seem like he needs someone to put their arm around him or have a word with him. He looks a bit lost at the moment with his bowling. What would you say?
I don't know. I'd have to find out how he's feeling and just encourage him to trust himself. I think the game has evolved with all his injuries going out. I think people are going hard. There's the sense of mystique that he used to have, the sense of fear. He doesn't quite have that yet. And it will take another game or 2 of him really getting into someone to start creating that atmosphere again.
Sorry to interrupt, but I've seen this slight change in his action as well, where earlier he was a bit tall and I mean, his action was high arm. Now it's coming a little bit, and that's the reason he's not getting that extra bounce. And he always used to back his back of length deliveries, where if you're coming from this angle, it skids on and batters can set him up nicely.
You've noticed that as well?
Yeah, we've talked about it on air during the Champions Trophy, and I suppose the whole thing is, Matt, and you would have followed him quite closely, sometimes with these injuries, these things creep in to your bowling as a compensation for what has been happening. So it's not necessarily, and I'm not saying he's saying it's a deliberate thing, but I speculate that it's just crept in with the sequence of injuries that he's had, and sometimes they can be hard to rectify.
I did think there were some. I know the figures on the screen at the moment don't necessarily show it, but I did think there was some promising signs against KKR. I thought his first over was a lot better, and the figures took a real dent when the game was pretty much won at the end when De Kock got after him. But yeah, fascinating to listen to these two on him.
Sometimes it's also, I guess, timing. If he was in this Rajasthan team last year, you'd have had Trent Bolt one side, Chahal and Ashwin to back him up on the other, stronger bowling. All of a sudden, this team, you're looking at Jofra to lead the attack, and it might be hard work when he's just trying to find his own form again. Let's hope it changes tonight. But he's also up against a team, perhaps you wouldn't mind it, with what we saw of CSK, lots of criticism, even from the fans, of their approach and how they tried to go about their chase against RCB. I believe even the great, usually unperturbed Stephen Fleming gave a reaction to the media when he was asked the question of whether they lack some firepower. What is that telling us a little? Flem's here, there he is. Okay, we have firepower all the way through. Just because we don't swing from ball one and have a little bit of luck go our way, we'll see at the end. Stephen Fleming says this, just see at the end who wins it. Positive brand of cricket, no doubt about it. Do not discount us. Well, you know Stephen Fleming, you spent some time in that CSK dugout.
Look, he's always calm. Whether the team wins or loses, one thing CSK focuses on is the process. They try and back their players. The dressing room environment, it's always calm. Yes, you do address the issues which happens on the field. And I'm sure they would have had a long chat about what went wrong, because this is the first time when CSK lost with a big margin at home.
Yep.
So I'm sure they will try and address those issues, but they are a confident unit. Look, there's a lot of talent out there, but yes, another concerning factor is the average age of the group. It is quite on the higher side.
Oh, that's so nothing new. If anything, they've got a couple of young guys right now. It looks like one of the youngest squads they've had in 10 years. But yeah, I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
But there are some numbers that dig up why this is a worthy conversation. Their batting template, their approach. It's early days, but as we just look at their season, when it comes to run rates, strike rates, boundary hitting, all yours, Matt.
Yeah, it is obviously extremely early days, and I suppose you have to bear in mind as well that they did play on a relatively slow pitch in their first game against Mumbai, and that can have an outsized impact on the stats at this stage of the year. But I guess that just gives a little bit of a flavour, particularly when you look at things like the number of balls per six. But maybe it is a slightly different style to what we're seeing some teams in IPL play nowadays. One thing I did think coming into this game particularly, and it'll be really interesting to see how this plays out, is if you think about the pitch that Rajasthan played their last home game on in Guwahati, it was pretty slow. And it was Varun Chakravarti and Moeen Ali that had success. And obviously, in addition to what we've seen on the screen from Fleming's press conference, he was also speaking about a theme that we touched on before of how they probably don't have the control over their home pitches that they would like to.
Right.
If anything, I think that playing in Guwahati could play into their hands. When you look at those three spinners, if it's anything like the other night, then that's a surface that should suit Chennai very well, I'd think.
I'm just trying to see if there's any intelligence coming through from Guwahati on the surface. But I do know that Nagaraj Golapudi, who's watching this game very closely, wants me to ask the two of you that the heavy roller is being used, whether that matters at all in T20. Not you, Matt. But the heavy roller is being used.
I've been eating too much good Indian food.
Puji, does the heavy roller make a difference?
I think I'm guessing it'll be a flat pitch with the heavy roller. They want the pitch and they want the ball to come on nicely. The ball might skid on a bit more. And the Rajasthan's batters, they haven't been scoring runs. I mean, they haven't scored runs in the last game. So, and looking at CSK's side, they would definitely want the pitch to be a flat one. And it might be a high-scoring game today.
Bish, anything to add on the use of the heavy roller in T20s?
No, when we use it and teams use it now, you're in the hope that in a T20 game it just compacts it and allows it to be a little bit truer for you. So hopefully that's what we see tonight.
Oh, okay. All right. Your next big assignment that you've come prepared for today, young Mr. Roller, the light roller, is Yashasvi Jaiswal. Go on then.
Yeah, I think Jaiswal obviously had such a brilliant season in 2023 and did actually had an okay season in 2024 as well, but slightly less so by his standards. And has probably had a slightly quieter start to the year than he would have liked. He was dismissed pretty cheaply in the first game and looked a little bit scratchy, I thought, against KKR, making 29. But our stats team have done some digging into the numbers, and there's some stark trends, I suppose, which you can see, which are basically that in the past couple of years, so from last season and then heading into this season, he's been quite vulnerable in the first couple of overs, much more so than he had been previously.
Right.
So you can see there he's been dismissed 5 times in the first couple of overs, scoring quickly, and there's a fair bit of aggressive intent there. But dismissals are there as well. You can see the average is there, and he's out every 8 balls in the first couple of overs. In the rest of the power play, once he's got through that period against the swinging ball, and generally, the new ball in India in T20s and white ball cricket does tend to stop swinging within a couple of overs. He's got a very, very good record. So I suppose the interesting question from my point of view is whether he should temper his approach at all in the first couple of overs, look to get through it, just look to see off the swinging ball, because he can cash in so well from overs 3 to 6 and then from the rest of the innings. But also whether there's anything different in terms of how a team's bowling to him. Is it something that there's a vulnerability there? Yeah. And I think I'm particularly interested to hear from Pujara because of the fact that I know he's a big advocate for volume in terms of batting. And Jaiswal, if you look at his recent record since he got back from Australia for the Test series, has played very, very little cricket. I think only 1 Ranji game and 1 ODI against England.
Right.
I think it's not the swinging ball. I feel that it's the approach. He thinks that he has to be playing at a strike rate of 180, 200, which shouldn't be the case, because when he was successful, he was playing on the merit of the ball. I know he was playing shots. He needs to play his shots, but at the same time, it looks like he's very tensed. He wants to hit every ball out of the park, whereas earlier he was a lot calmer. Even if you look at his performances in Test format or any other format, whenever he has succeeded, he has played cricketing shots rather than just trying to have that thought process that he needs to score each and every ball. Just allow himself little more time. It's just about taking a couple of more balls. Even if you play a couple of dot balls, you can still hit the third ball for a 4 or a 6. But he is having a mindset that he can't play a dot ball.
Ish.
Yeah, to encapsulate what's said there, method. He's still a very young man and playing different formats, and I think he still needs to work out what is his method to continue being successful in this format of the game.
I'm done. I don't want to talk to you at all now. You spend all this time talking about the importance of going hard and the openers, and then you dig up those numbers for Jaiswal, saying if he just takes a little bit of time in 2 overs, and Sai Sudarshan is on, like he's going to run a ball in 2 overs. That's not good enough. He needs to. Jaiswal comes in.
This is the beauty of sitting in the studio, Raunak. We don't have to go out there and do it, which is why you've got to have so much respect for these guys who have been there and have done it.
You make my job very hard.
It's an easy game from this sofa.
Yeah, I'm glad you acknowledge it. Dustin had no regard for Fuji and Nick Knight last night. But anyway, there you go. That's what you've got. Jaiswal, watch out. If he can manage 2 overs, then perhaps we'll see the best of him. I mean, sometimes
he's due for
a big one.
Big one, yeah.
Yeah,
and it could be today. I'm guessing it has to be today, because he's someone who deals with his failures very well, and he likes to score runs. He likes to bat for a longer period of time, even in the nets.
Yeah. To be fair, one thing working for CSK is Khaleel. Khaleel with the new ball is looking as good as he ever has. There's never been a shortage of talent, but Khalil's one thing that's working for the new franchise that he's come to. Yeah,
and he's bowling well. He's swinging the new ball, and the matchup will be Jaiswal versus Khaleel, because left-handers, left-arm seamers have the best of all the left-hand batters. So it'll be interesting to see how Jaiswal bats.
And actually, that's a specific thing that I noted down about Jaiswal as well. I think there were 5 occasions last year where he was out early to left-arm seam in the IPL, and one of those bowlers was Khaleel Ahmed. So,
right, that's the matchup then.
It's an interesting head-to-head for sure.
My God, you should be in a dugout somewhere.
Why do you think he's trying so hard? He's working so hard. He won't be here next year.
I think Khaleel is, and we've seen him, Chetty has seen him obviously from much earlier, but ever since we saw him in that Under-19 World Cup, he showed the ability to swing the ball, right? I thought last season was an important one. It wasn't his most prolific. He got 19 or something a couple of years before. But from a fitness point of view, staying fitter, playing more games last year. Bowling at the Arun Jaitley Stadium was no easy task.
Sure.
So I thought last season was a big season for him. I still want to see him be able to. He seems sometimes to go back of a length quite often. I still want to see him just creep a little bit further up without over pitching. But I like, if he can stay fit, I really like what he's growing into as a bowler.
I think he's at the peak of his fitness because they're impact subbing Pathirana out now. So he's fielding the full 20 overs and he's the better batter than Matisha Pathirana. So it's all the evidence you need of Khaleel Ahmed.
India need a left arm seamer.
No, otherwise he bowls his 4th over in the 15, 16, whatever, and he's off. Khaleel is off. He's not fielding for another over. Anyway, that's just my subtle observation. Take nothing away from how well Khaleel's bowling, and may it continue today. Favourable matchup against Jaiswal, and CSK won the toss and they're bowling. We might see if Khaleel is successful in getting Jaiswal. Riyan Parag, the captain, walk out at number 3, which has also triggered a bit of a conversation. Parag himself has said that the team wants me batting at 3 this year. He had a terrific season last year in the IPL, propelled his international call-up. But I think Parag at 3, the jury is still out on whether this is the right move. You're the authority of number 3 amongst many other things. Mr. Pujara, you like Riyan Parag there?
I have a weird suggestion. I like Dhruv Jurel. He's probably a quality player. He's batting at number 5 or 6, which is too late for him. I think he should be promoted up the order. Whether it's number 3 or number 4, I don't mind. I mean, it has to be between Parag and Dhruv Jurel. There should be number 3 and number 4.
Okay, I mean, I don't think that's weird at all. That makes a lot of sense. Here's what Rahul Dravid said, though. Speaking ahead of this game, Parag's been promoted this season to give him more balls to face, which benefits us, says the Rajasthan Royals head coach. The decision will be periodically reassessed, and he also called Parag one of their best batters. But I like what Puji's thrown in there. If you have to look at roles for certain batters, is it a better fit for Jurel at 3 and Parag a bit later? Bish, your thoughts?
Yeah, I like Dhruv. Riyan had some success last year, a little further down. So Dhruv, the ability, what he showed in that test match, he showed an ability against England to hold and to go. So 6 and 1/2 dozen of the other, but I like Dhruv there. My biggest thing is Shimron Hetmeyer's been batting down there in that hole so much. I still think there's more that they can get out of him.
Yeah.
But I wonder if he's forgotten how to do any job higher up for a longer period of time because he's done this little finishing role for so long.
Got anything?
Yeah, well, I was intrigued to hear
some-
what Bish had to say about Hetmeyer because I was sort of digging through the numbers trying to work out why it is that RR are persisting with him in this specialist finishing role. And, you know, I was probably as surprised as you were, Bish, to see him walking out as low as number 8 in their last game, which felt at least one, if not 2.
It's higher than 9.
Yeah, true. At least one spot too low. The numbers for what they're worth, since 2022 in the IPL, he's gone averaging 51, striking 174 against pace, averaging 20 and striking 108 against spin. But I also think that's one of the things where numbers can lie a little bit because I think that's self-fulfilling. I think that's partly because when he comes in that finishing role, the spin that he's facing, he's thinking, I need to see this off so I can cash in at the end. And batting tentatively rather than batting with the intent that I'm sure Bish has seen a lot of when he's been playing in the Caribbean Premier League, for example, and batting up the order.
Yeah, he comes from Ghana, right? So he's not a terrible player of spin. Generally, right? And I've just like Puran, who was at LSG, was batting down, and I thought waste of time batting him down there. Even in the Caribbean when Hetty plays, I still think he's good enough because he started international cricket batting at 3 and then batting at 5. And I'm really worried that this pigeonholing of him for whoever he plays is wasting a little bit of talent.
Yeah, I mean, he had a series in India that was mind-blowing in ODI cricket where he just won games of his own bat as a young man, batting at 3 and 4, right? Let's break down the power play. We already told you the matchup to look out for. Khaleel versus Jaiswal. More of that in Maruti Suzuki Arena presents Power Play Conversations. Okay, we've spoken of the favourable matchup, Khaleel v Jaiswal. So what can Rajasthan do to counter it? Let's make the conversation about that. Puji.
I think Sanju will have to take the lead. I feel he's someone who likes to take on the bowlers and he's very smart about how he does it. So he will play a key role because I feel Yashashvi, he's a bit tentative at the moment. He hasn't been scoring runs. So if Sanju can get going, then it'll be a good power play for RR.
Now, they were throwing Sam Curran the ball in the previous games. He's not there today. So, what's their best option in the power play for you, Bish, along with Khaleel?
It's a good one.
Would you like to have a look at the team one more time?
Yeah, please. Just
Right.
bring
I
it
mean,
up.
Ashwin's been tried in the power play. They're playing Overton today, of course.
Well, I mean, Overton is certainly, I don't know what his numbers are. He's certainly one that you could go to. If Ashwin is not just bowling over and just sort of get through a couple of guys in that power play and over each or whatever, however you want to work it.
Ashwin against RR. There's not a lot of bowlers that scream power play in that team.
No, we said the same in the last game, didn't we? And even, Curran obviously actually bowled pretty well in the power play in the last game, and Overton, who's come in, I would say generally associated with being more middle overs and get his Yorkers in at the death, but definitely could do a job in the power play. Wouldn't be surprised to see, for example, a spinner share the new ball and then Overton sort of closing the power play out 4 and 6, something like that.
I'm sure the analyst at Rajasthan has shown Jaiswal those matchup numbers. He smashed the first ball for 4 of Khaleel Ahmed. So on that lovely note, let's get predictions. What does Forecaster say? Forecaster got it wrong in the first game. We were looking at 190. We end up getting 160. Forecaster is consistent. It says 197 as things stand for the Rajasthan Royals. That keep in mind. Cheteshwar Pujara, your first innings predictor.
I'm going with 180.
We can go home now.
Oh, yeah.
We can all leave, man. 180, he says 180s will be 180.
I know what you're doing, man. You're building it up now. It's going to go horribly wrong now.
I'm still stunned that is how he got it right in the first thing.
Go on then. You could copy him if you want.
2 or 3.
2 or 3. I like it.
I'll go a little low, 170.
A coward. Absolute coward. Absolute coward, man. You went 225 first up.
I'm learning from my mistakes, Fish.
All right, we're going to stay on for 1 more minute. Jaiswal Khaleel is something we spoke of. Jaiswal is gone, caught mid off Khaleel. Pujara seen that wicket and we spoke of the 2-over problem that he's having. But is that again exactly the point you were saying, the problem with Jaiswal?
I think he got a boundary. Now what he should be looking is, he knows that he's getting out early. He needs to spend a little more time at the crease. And it's not just about the ball. See, it wasn't there to hit. You know that if you have got a 4, why don't you just try and take a single, get at the non-strikers end, get first couple of overs in. Even if you are scoring at, say, strike rate of 120, it's fine for first couple of overs. And then once you are in, then you can start playing your shots.
4 and 1 is not something. But the 4 and 1 is not something they're told, right? Like, it's supposed to be a dated version. But is that something for this stage you're saying he should be doing?
Yeah, because since he's not
getting runs. Yeah. Bish.
I just want to jump on the length of the ball. It's up there without being up there as the previous ball was driven for 4, and it's not too short. And I think that's Khalil's length, where you give it a chance to do something, but not over pitching it. So I'm jumping on the bowler's side, and Chetty has talked about the batter's perspective.
Riyan Parag has not walked in at 3.
They're going with left and right.
Nitish Rana. I would never take Rahul Dravid to be dishonest before the game. But he did say we will periodically reassess. So as soon as the pre-match presser ended, he periodically reassessed.
They always like keeping us guessing, don't they?
Nitish Rana, well, it's better than Hasaranga. So let's leave it there. Thank you very much. Matt Rawler, Cheteshwar Pujara and Ian Bishop. Advantage CSK with the new ball in Guwahati. Big game for both teams. Rajasthan are winless. CSK coming in the back of a defeat against RCB. We'll see where this game stands at half-time. On Maruti Suzuki Arena presents ESPN Cricket for Timeout.
How do I do it all? The Brezza gives me the power.